Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Erin Viner.
And I'm Yochanan Elrom.
In our top story, U.S. President Donald Trump has strong words regarding Israel's endgame with Hamas. Trump posted on social media that the only way the return of the remaining hostages abducted from Israel to the Gaza Strip can occur is when Hamas is confronted and destroyed, and that the sooner this takes place, the better the chances for success will be. The U.S. Commander-in-Chief went on to point out that he is the one who negotiated and obtained the release of hundreds of hostages. Underscoring that he ended 6 wars in 6 months and obliterated Iran's nuclear facilities, President Trump added, "Play to win or don't play at all."
The government of Australia canceled the visa of Knesset member Simcha Rothman just hours before the Israeli lawmakers was scheduled to travel to the land down under for a series of appearances at Jewish schools and synagogues. Canberra said Rothman's solidarity tour of Jewish communities would spread division and cause trouble. The decision outraged Israel, which responded by revoking the residence permits of Australian representatives to the Palestinian Authority. Rothman, who represents the religious Zionist Party, accused Australia of surrendering to terrorism and anti-Semitism that is rampant on the streets of their country. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the Australian Prime Minister a weak politician who betrayed Israel and abandoned Australian Jews.
The U.S. State Department has stopped issuing visas for Gazans pending a full and thorough review of the process. So far this year, nearly 4,000 B-1 and B-2 visitor visas that permit foreigners to seek medical treatment in the United States have been granted to those in possession of travel documents issued by the Palestinian Authority. The freeze was ordered after concern was raised that healthy Palestinians might be taking advantage of this system. Florida Representative Randy Fine branded the current standards as a national security risk.
Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam denounced Hezbollah's warning that disarming the Shiite terrorist group would ignite a civil war in the country. The threat came from Naim Qassem, the Secretary General of Hezbollah. He vowed that Lebanon would have no life if you try and confront us or eliminate us. The Lebanese premier called the threat of civil war shameful. The Hezbollah terror boss accused Beirut of acting on behalf of American and Israeli orders. Prime Minister Salam insisted that no one in his government considers themselves an extension of any foreign state. He said there is no country that does not maintain exclusive control of weapons. It has always been a Lebanese demand that has been delayed for decades. Now the time has come.
U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham, who is an outspoken supporter of Israel, has a cautionary message warning critics of the Jewish state. The South Carolina Republican said that if America pulls the plug on Israel, God will pull the plug on America. Stressing that Israel is in a fight for its life and surrounded by people who would kill them if they could, the longtime American leader then took aim at his fellow Republicans who have wavered in their support for Israel, adding that he is frustrated with what he sees as moral confusion within his own party. The GOP lawmaker said that siding with Israel is not a hard choice if you are an American, and that it is also not a hard choice if you are a Christian.
Israel's ambassador to France said anti-Semitism has hit levels not seen since the last century with the rise of Nazism. Joshua Zarka believes Jews are facing an enormous wave of anti-Semitism, not only in France but all across Europe. The Israeli diplomat pointed to foreign influence in the recent surge in violence. He blamed Qatar and Turkey for funding pro-Palestinian organizations whose activities create fertile ground for attacks on Jews. France is host to the second-largest Jewish community outside of Israel. Ambassador Zarka said the Jews of France are beginning to realize that it is not a matter of if they should immigrate to Israel, but rather when to pack up and leave.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has announced that Washington is preparing to declare that the Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization. America's top diplomat said that the process is already underway, although it is slow going because each branch of the Islamic group must be designated individually. Rubio explained that the government is constantly reviewing organizations to determine if they are supporters of terrorists or even terrorists themselves. U.S. Senator Ted Cruz insists that the Palestinian Hamas is a branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. It is important to remember that during the genocidal attack on October 7, 2023, by jihadi Hamas members and its followers, that 1,600 people in Israel were wounded, while they also murdered and abducted over 1,200 others, including at least 53 Americans. The Texas Republican stated that Hamas is committed to the overthrowing of the United States and other non-Islamist governments around the world.
The families of 3 hostages being held in brutal conditions by Hamas terrorists in the Gaza Strip have filed a $20 million lawsuit against Karim Khan, the chief prosecutor at the International Criminal Court. The legal action accuses Khan of turning the ICC into a branch office of the terror group. The non-governmental organization, Shirat Hadin, is representing the Israeli families. They released a statement alleging that Khan slandered the State of Israel and presented false representations to the plaintiffs, while at the same time providing services to terrorist organizations and giving them assistance. They added that Khan wove blood libels against the State of Israel and its leaders by creating a false moral equivalence between Israel, which is the victim, and the terrorists who continue to hold and abuse the hostages.
The Toronto International Film Festival, known by the acronym TIFF, has reversed its decision to cancel the screening of a documentary about the October 7th Hamas massacre, following an outcry from Jewish organizations and Israeli officials. The film, entitled The Road Between Us, The Ultimate Rescue, is the work of Canadian Barry Averich. It portrays the experience of Reserve Major General Noam T-Bone, who immediately set out on his own to save his son's family and others that very same morning during the brutal attack on Kibbutz Nahal Oz by the Iranian-backed terror group. TIFF shockingly claimed initially that the producer had failed to obtain permission from Hamas terrorists to use the footage that they themselves recorded of the atrocities committed on innocent children, women, men, and elderly people. Despite that, privately, sources say that festival management was afraid that anti-Israel protests would disrupt the event when it is slated to be held next month.
Argentinian President Javier Milei has followed through on his pledge to create a new initiative aimed at strengthening relations between Latin America and Israel. The Argentine leader was this year's recipient of the $1 million award from the Genesis Prize Foundation. His project is called the American Friends of the ICEJ Accords. Milei, who was the first non-Jew and head of state to receive the prize, said he has a deep admiration for Israel, its history, its people, and its unwavering spirit. The ICEJ Accords will strive to improve diplomatic, economic, and cultural cooperation between Israel and Latin America.
Mike Huckabee, the United States ambassador to Israel, has wholeheartedly endorsed President Trump's statement that the hostages abducted from Israel will only be freed when Hamas is obliterated. The American envoy told the Jerusalem Post that Trump's position is spot on and as concise and firm as it possibly could be. Huckabee, however, harshly criticized European leaders for undermining negotiations for the hostages' release by vowing to recognize Palestinian statehood. Such declarations, he says, only serve to embolden and empower Hamas, and that's exactly when they walked away from the previous round of negotiations.
AI, artificial intelligence, is creating dramatic changes, but as technology advances, so do the frauds that exploit it. So-called deep fakes have become a major threat, especially voice scams that can result in significant financial damage. An Israeli company called Multicall has developed a unique biometric voice recognition technology to combat the criminal element. The CEO of the company told Ynet News that a lot of frauds have managed to overcome all of the barriers on the market, but not the Multicall biometric system, which checks your internal anatomy. Your voice is your signature.
Things are looking up for the domestic travel industry. More than 85,000 travelers recently passed through Ben Gurion International Airport. This is the highest single-day figure since the October 7th, 2023 Hamas attack. Observers say the numbers signal the reemergence of Tel Aviv as a travel hub. International airlines halted flights to Israel because of the war, but slowly more and more carriers have resumed their service. Most flights taking off from Tel Aviv this month have already been sold out due to the still reduced availability and high seasonal demand.
That concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here in our beautiful studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Aleeza Ben Shalom. She's from the hit Netflix series, Jewish Matchmaking. Aleeza, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, in today's modern world, why is there a need for matchmaking?
I think there's a need more than ever. The world is spread out, and as much as technology actually connects us and brings us together, with our own communities, we're very far apart. We live on our phones in our own world, and we have a hard time finding our person.
I don't think people understand that in the religious Jewish community, matchmaking is very, very often sought after. What is the secret sauce in matchmaking? How do you find a match from someone that you just meet?
So matchmaking started years ago with Abraham sending out his servant Eliezer to go find a match. And since then, we've been refining the process. So we kind of got good at it. I think that something that people need is an understanding of who somebody is and what they want. Not what you want for them, but what they tell you they want. And then you need to find somebody that fits within a range of that and then massage the situation to get a yes and to get two people to go on a date.
Yeah, people are getting divorced like never before in America. It's really a pandemic that's a scourge across America. But in the religious Jewish community, you don't see it that often. Why do you think the discrepancy?
I think that we have a lot of infrastructure around our practices, our holidays, our lives, and our lifestyles. And so we have support along the road. Like you get married and you're not just alone doing your own thing in the world, trying to figure it out. You have a community. There's events that come up on a weekly or a monthly basis that help to rebind us and reconnect us to our own families and to our larger community.
What are some of the ways that you find matches for people within the different Jewish spectrums? Are you looking for, if they're ultra-Orthodox, then they're, compatible. If they're mono-Orthodox, then they're compatible. Or how do you figure out, what is compatible from a religious point of view?
Right, so that's a good question. And I think there is room for flexibility if the person themselves has the ability to stretch a little bit. So if somebody's within an Orthodox community and they like that community, they're going to want to find somebody who wants to live the same lifestyle. But there are people in a modern Orthodox or traditional community where they say, I could be with somebody that's a little more or a little less religious than me and we can figure it out. It's not a problem. And in the secular world, the biggest fear is like, oh, you're not going to set me up with somebody Orthodox. I don't want to be religious. And my answer is always, I wouldn't be a good matchmaker if I did that. So we try to match like with like. That's how we're going to get the best results.
In the Christian community, biblical values is paramount. Yet I don't think they have this type of tradition for matchmaking. Is this something that can apply to other religious communities, or is it specifically a Jewish thing?
This is not a Jewish thing. I think that faith-based matchmaking is enormous. I have Christian matchmaking colleagues that are really looking for matches, and we're all looking to interconnect and try to find the right people for the right people. So since my show came out, some people have said, I'm not Jewish, I'm Christian, but can you help me? And I said, yes, but not me. Let me connect you. Let me be a good matchmaker and get you to the right matchmaker that's a fit for your community.
You came out with a book called Matchmaker. It's a great read. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, Matchmaker is built for singles and for anybody who wants to play matchmaker. You don't have to be a professional to make a match. I believe that anybody can bring two people together, and the book has stories about different couples and what they went through and different dating philosophies that are a little bit fun and playful. For example, date them till you hate them. And in Judaism and Christianity, I know we don't believe in hate, love your neighbor as yourself, but we should really give somebody a chance when we're dating. We should open our minds, open our hearts, and give a few dates until we actually decide a hard no.
Religious Jewish dating is very different than regular dating. There's no touching. It's also frowned upon to be alone together. How does that play into finding a match?
So I love the religious dating idea, but for a secular or modern crowd that doesn't fit exactly in with it, I modify it. So I talk about a 5-date challenge, and I say, listen, you should hold back. No touching for 5 dates. If you like the human being in front of you, okay, after 5 dates, Aleeza will turn her head the other way. But if you can't even get to a date 5, physical touch is irrelevant. If I don't like the human being, it doesn't matter how I feel when I'm with them because our values aren't aligned. And I think that, again, faith-based values, Jews, Christians, and everybody across the world can really relate to this, and it's a formula for success. I always tell people, just try it, like money back guaranteed. If it doesn't work for you, you let me know. It has worked 100% of the time.
I understand that in today's world, technology plays a huge role in dating and finding a match for marriage. Does it also play a role in matchmaking?
Yes, technology is fabulous. It turns everybody into their own matchmaker, and it gives them their own database. So the problem is that people are having burnout because they have to swipe 1,000 times to get a yes, to get a date in person happening, and it's overwhelming. So modern day, if we could either have friends or family or somebody else using the system for you, or if you use it, just use it moderately. The same way that we moderate our technology and our intake of it, we should moderate it through dating so that we don't burn out.
I always think that personally I would be better at finding my children's husbands or wives as they get older than they would be at that. Can anyone do matchmaking, or do you really need to know what you're doing in this?
Anyone can do matchmaking, and you'll do better if you know what you're doing in this. So I love to give people tips and hints about how to go about making a good match. For parents, I would say look for what your child wants, not for what you want for them. Figure out what they want. Ask them. Get them to really open up and find that. And that's the way that you're going to make a really great match. But anyone can make a match. You don't have to be a professional.
Aleeza, there are literally tens of millions of people watching this show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
The main message that I have is that you have the ability to find your person. Never give up hope. Never lose faith that your person exists. They are living, they are breathing, they are in this world, and you have the ability to find them.
Thank you, Aleeza, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
And now, the truth from Zion.
Since the outbreak of the brutal civil war in Syria in March of 2011, more than 615,000 lives have been lost, with countless more displaced and injured. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad is a dictator with blood on his hands. He has managed to cling to power by using horrific chemical weapons and relentless violence against his own people. Millions have fled the country to save their lives. Iran saw the opportunity to expand its influence and further its agenda of terror and destruction amid the chaos and carnage in Syria. Occupying Syria serves Iran's demonic drive to destroy the state of Israel, which shares a border with Syria. Syria has always been Israel's enemy and is a willing partner in Iran's plan to wipe the Jewish state off the map. Syria attacked Israel in 1967 during the Six-Day War. Israel won that war and was able to take back the Golan Heights. This mountainous, lush part of northern Israel is not only biblically historic for the Jewish people, but having it under Israeli control also strengthens Israel's security. When Syria occupied the area, its army used the vantage point and elevation to shoot at Israelis living below. Once Israel liberated the territory, the Israel Defense Force was able to secure a safer life for Israeli civilians. The love affair between Damascus and Tehran began in 1979, when Syria was the only country to support the Islamic Republic's violent overthrow of the Shah of Iran. The ties between the two radical Islamic states have only grown stronger over the intervening years. Iran currently has 55 military bases in Syria and another 515 military positions, mostly deployed around the suburbs of Aleppo and the capital Damascus. Syrian President Bashar al-Assad has been able to remain in power due to the financial, political, and military might of Iran's dictatorial regime. The price he pays is to make Syrian territory available to Iran, regardless of how dangerous and detrimental it is for his own countrymen.
Since Assad's bloody civil war in Syria, Iran has used Syrian territory to coordinate its proxy war against Israel. Whether it be smuggling weapons, training, or terror coordination, fighting Iranian elements in Syria has been a major component of this war.
2011 saw the outbreak of civil war as the Syrian people became disenchanted with the brutal Assad regime. As Syrians took to the streets in protest, Assad gave the order to his generals to use deadly chemical weapons on the demonstrators. The world stood by silently as the death toll rose from the hundreds to the thousands to the hundreds of thousands. Tehran did not want to see Assad lose power because he was facilitating Iran's presence along the border with Israel. Iran propped up Assad's regime through the transfer of weapons, military training, and economic aid. During this time, Assad and his puppet government violently suppressed any and all opposition. Israel, in its unwavering commitment to self-defense, repeatedly strikes Iranian targets in Syria, thwarting the enemy's attempts to entrench themselves along Israel's sovereign eastern border. Jerusalem has made it clear that it will not sit idly by while Damascus and Tehran plot the destruction of Israel. Recently, the world witnessed a significant blow to Iran's operations in Syria with the elimination of top commanders of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps who were directing Tehran's nefarious activities in the region. Numerous terror leaders, including Brigadier General Mohammad Reza Zahedi, were assassinated at a military headquarters near the Iranian consulate in Damascus. Israel did not claim responsibility for the attack. Nevertheless, Iran blamed Israel and 2 weeks later retaliated by launching more than 300 hostile unmanned aircraft and missiles toward Israel. Iran continues to prop up the brutal Assad regime that has become synonymous with tyranny and oppression, just as Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps is viewed in its own country. There can be no justification for Assad's use of chemical weapons or Iran's malevolent actions in Syria. Israel continues to monitor developments in Syria and remains vigilant against the looming threat posed by Iran and its proxies. Security is Israel's top priority, and the government stands ready to take whatever measures are necessary to defend the Jewish homeland and those who live in it. That includes not only Jews, but also Christians, Druze, and Muslim Israelis as well. The fanatical Shiite Republic of Iran is the #1 state sponsor of terrorism around the globe. It must be defeated once and for all. Up next, the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
Since 1980, the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem has been a voice of Christian support for Israel and connecting the global church to the land of the Bible. Headquartered in Jerusalem, the ICEJ has taken practical action to stand with Israel, such as helping Jews return to their ancestral homeland of Israel, caring for Holocaust survivors, providing bomb shelters for vulnerable communities, fighting anti-Semitism around the world, and inviting Christians to discover Israel for themselves.
The ICEJ is privileged to partner with the Jewish Agency for Israel to help bring God's people back home, especially in these challenging times. Aliyah has rapidly increased in the past years, and in the first half of this year, increased by 30% from France alone, which is where our most recent sponsored flight is from. Take a look.
Aliyah truly never stops. If you consider that before 1948, the gates to Aliyah, to the land of Israel, were largely closed, or at least very, very limited. That was one of the struggles that the Jewish Agency led in the pre-state days. And since 1948, Aliyah has not stopped. It has stopped, halted briefly, one day during COVID, one day during the 1973 war. And now, even with the missiles coming in from Iran, over 500 missiles. And since that time of 500 missiles, we already have more than 500 olim.
So we're going to meet today more than 100 olim that came from France, especially after the war we had with Iran. They haven't changed the plan. They haven't canceled the Aliyah. On the contrary, they wanted to come to Israel as soon as possible. This is part of their commitment to Aliyah and to the Jewish Agency and the State of Israel.
They are coming because of their unconditional love to Israel, to Eretz Israel, to Am Israel, to Medinat Israel, to the people of Israel. And this is the main reason, because this is one of the most risky places on earth. Arriving to Israel to strengthen us, to strengthen our bonds, and to continue building the State of Israel, to bring here the young generation. We need more people to make Israel much stronger, Jewish, democratic, wonderful state. A place that we all are praising.
As Jews around the world, we don't have any friends. And when we know that Christian friends are part of us, are supporting us, are standing behind us, we are feeling that we are not alone. And your support, not only financially, but morally, especially during the time of war, we know that we are not alone. And this is crucial for our sustain in Israel.
And this is just part of a journey that the partnership with ICEJ enables us each and every day. Thanks to the support, the prayers, the generosity of ICEJ branches and supporters all around the world, we're able to do our global work to reach into over 50 countries around the world and bring our people home. So I'd like to say thank you. Continue with your prayers, continue with your support, continue advocating against anti-Semitism and for the State of Israel and for the Jewish people. You are never wrong to do the right thing, and the right thing is definitely to support Israel and love the Jewish people.
These life-changing moments that you've just seen are possible because of your support, and we want to thank you for partnering with us. You are blessing generations here in Israel. Visit ICEJUSA.tv to donate online or call 1-800-910-6355 and give your generous gift today.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Erin Viner.
And I'm Yochanan Elrom, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.